There's a storm you're starting. I'm a wanderess, I'm a one-night stand. Don't belong to no city, don't belong to no man. Let's tilt you up a little bit. Is that better? That's even better. Back to the old chopping block of video making. What does that even mean? Okay, anyway. Did you hear about the ghost that was a comedian? He was booed off the stage. This is gonna be a weird video because this is a weird month and I already have 2 wrap-ups for July, a weekly wrap-up and then a cramathon wrap-up. So I'm just gonna link those videos down below and I'm not gonna talk about any of those books. But I'm gonna be speaking about the books that I read in the last half of July that were not part of the first weekly wrap-up or cramathon. I believe I started this book before cramathon occurred and then cramathon occurred and then I stopped reading this. Long story short, I read Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge this month. This book is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's about a girl named Nyx. Her father sold her off to be married to the fantasy town's very well-known villain. He's like a magician almost that grants wishes, but he is like blatantly villainous. She has to marry this disgusting and mean and cruel guy. And again, Beauty and the Beast retelling, so it just kind of follows that. This book was so great in the beginning. I remember getting to like page 100 and being like, this is it. This is gonna be a favorite of the year. But it quickly went downhill. I did like the idea of it going into it. I was like, yeah, this is great, nice. And I did listen to the audiobook and the audiobook was spectacular. I loved the narrator, so check that out if you wanna. But the whole premise of this world really began to confuse me. And again, I don't know if that's because I listened to the audiobook, but this tried to incorporate magic and mythology and it was so confusing. There was just so much insta-love in the middle of this. I loved the main character. Nyx was sassy and she was strong, but she was kind of gullible. The love made no sense to me. There was this really awkward love triangle. It was interesting because kind of the voice in the back of my head was like, who's the villain here in this love triangle? In the end, I did not enjoy this book. When I wasn't confused, I was irritated at the characters, and by the end of this book, I was ready for it to be over. I gave it 2 stars. This next book I actually did mention in my cramathon wrap-up. I just hadn't finished it during that readathon, so I decided I would mention it again here, even though I already spoke about it there. This is The Vincent Boys by Abby Glines. Sorry, flipping. I made a journal finally for all the books I've read and I'm like wrote notes in here to talk about things. So The Vincent Boys right here. This book is new adult. It follows a girl who's a preacher's daughter and her old childhood best friend is the bad boy of the town, and when the preacher's daughter is, what's her name? Ashton. When her boyfriend goes out of town, things start to occur between her and this bad boy of the town that she used to be good friends with as a child. I read this purely because I wanted something light and cheesy and summery. I knew going into this it was probably going to be like a 3-star book for me. I was not having huge expectations, so please know that as I begin to speak about this. If this is like one of your favorite books or you really like Abby Glines, just know I went into it knowing personally, I wasn't gonna like it that much, but I wanted to read it anyway. Even though I went into this knowing I'd have a lot of complaints about it, I will say the writing is corny, the idea is so cliche, and it is pretty much just like a guilty pleasure read almost. But I had problems with it other than all that stuff. I felt like the whole cheating premise was just not good. I did not like the feel. Also, weird complaint, this was not smut. This is like young adult, clean as can be, surprisingly. I was reading this like, give me something, and it was like nothing. Anyway, my mom's probably watching this. Lastly, I just thought there was a little bit too much angst in it, like, you know, light summer boy read love triangle. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be great. It was awkward and painstaking, so those are just the things I have to say about it. I gave it 2 stars. Would I recommend it for a summer read? No, but I'm gonna talk about some good summery books coming up, so don't let that get your hopes down. This next book took me forever to read. Forever. I have no idea why. This is Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. This book's about a girl named Taylor whose dad is diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, so one last time they decided to go to their lake house for one summer just to kind of say goodbye and make memories. I mean, you know where that's going, so I guess I don't have to say very much more. Like I was telling you, this took me forever to read because I was bored. At this point, I've read all 3 of Morgan Matson's books. Morgan Matson writes shy, quiet girls. I was so annoyed with the main character in Since You've Been Gone because she was just so shy and introverted. And by this book, I was just kind of like, ugh. I'm sure some people can relate to these main characters, but I was just not having it, especially in a summery romance or summery tragedy, whatever this book is. It wasn't bad. It was summery. I mean, you know, the beach, working at a snack shop on the beach, movies under the stars. It was a good mood for the summer, and I did cry. A lot of people really love this. You could give it a try and see if you're one of those people, but I just thought it was meh. It's probably my least favorite from Morgan Matson. So I did not read these back to back, but I thought I would just mention them together. I listened on audio and finished the last 2 books in the Vampire Academy series, so actually it would be Spiritbound and then Last Sacrifice. If you don't know, I'm not the hugest fan of the Vampire Academy series. I feel like Rose, the main character, is super annoying and super childish and super immature and just really impulsive, annoying. But I told myself I would finish this series because it's a character thing. Maybe she'll develop past it. But as I read these 2 books, or listened to them on audio rather, I realized that is not true. She is just as annoying and impulsive in book 6 as she was in book 1. That's the huge thing that brought this series down for me, is I just did not like the main character. But I do think it's a fun vampire series. They're not the most action-packed. If I didn't listen to them on audiobook, it would be a totally different story. I wouldn't be able to read them quickly. This is like a 17-hour audiobook, and I put that mother on triple speed. This one was pretty good. Or was it? No, it was Blood Promise. I don't know. I felt like I don't even remember anything that happens in this one. Like, did this book even occur? Is this the one where she goes to Russia? No. See? I don't even know what happens in this one. It goes from Russia to this one. I hope that Russia thing wasn't a spoiler. I gave Spiritbound 3.5 stars and I gave Last Sacrifice 3 stars. Really excited to have this series done because that means the entire top 3 shelves of this bookshelf have officially, all those books have been read. This is the book that I read in between the 2 Vampire Academy books. This is On the Island by Tracy Garvis Graves. This book follows a 16-year-old boy, young adult, man, whatever, and his 30-year-old tutor. The boy just got over a bout of cancer, so he's going on vacation and catching up and studying over the summer. And then on the way there, they get in a plane crash and they have to survive on an island together. Feelings brew, etc. Survival, questionable romance. If you're looking for a summer read that will just grip you, this is your new best friend. I stayed up so late reading this, but even though it was fast-paced, I thought sometimes it just kind of skipped through things a little bit too quickly, and that was really upsetting because the last 100 pages of this was boring. I cannot tell you what happens in the last 100 pages that makes it so bad, but like, my point is, I wish that we could have expanded on some of the events that took place on the island just so that it made it a bigger book so that we could remove those last 100 pages that were boring. Some parts were unrealistic, like the fact that a bunch of their stuff washed up on the beach after they crashed the plane. I was like, would it really though? That's awfully convenient. Wow, it's been a while since I've read Shatter Me. I forgot to write down the star rating I put for On the Island, so I'm gonna guess that I gave it 4 stars, maybe 3.5. The next book I read was a graphic novel that was at the library, so let me scoot to this side so I can do a lovely picture. Nimona by, I don't have an author name, but a person. So again, this was a graphic novel that I've been recommended countless times. I started it and immediately I was like, this is me. The humor in it is so up my alley and the art style was just hilarious. If you have a Tumblr account and you're like all over Tumblr, this is your type of humor. It was not what I expected whatsoever. The story follows this evil villain who one day someone approaches him and is like, I want to be your sidekick, and that person is Nimona. So it's about this guy trying to make all those evil plans and then Nimona's on the side helping him out, and it's, I don't know how to explain it other than that, but it's super funny. It was such a cool world where it was like a castle and medieval with kings, but there was technology and there was all this modern stuff in it, and it was really funny. I loved the storyline. I loved the art style. Nimona was not the person I thought she would be. She's almost like an anti-hero, and sometimes I was just so annoyed with her and she would make such impulsive decisions and it was annoying. I gave Nimona 4 stars. And the last 2 books that I read are part of this bind up, but I'm counting them as separate books because who wouldn't? It's Not Summer Without You, and then We'll Always Have Summer by Ginny, which is the last 2 books in the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy. The story follows this girl named Belly who goes to a beach house every summer with her mom and then her family friends who have sons. It's a love triangle, it's summery, it's drama. The first book I was in love with. It was 5 stars. I don't know if it made it to my favorites list of last year, but I did really enjoy it, and it's still to this day one of my favorite contemporaries. But these next 2 were so unneeded. It really just dragged out the storyline. A lot of random time skips occurred. Really useless love triangle because you kind of know who she's gonna end up with. One of the things I really admire about Belly is that she's so immature, and I know I just said that Rose Hathaway from Vampire Academy is immature and annoying. The thing about Belly is that it's not a reckless immaturity, it's a selfish immaturity, which I really relate to. I saw myself so much in Belly, so reading her story and seeing her kind of crawling out of her shell, just discovering herself, and that again, a reason why I loved the first book. It's great. The second book felt like it wasn't even a book because it had no beginning, middle, and end. It was just kind of a continuation. And then the third book was so random, it skipped like 2 years. Random drama that you knew how it was gonna end, so the entire book you were like, ugh. Intense love triangle, but I know what's gonna happen. So it was just irritating. I would recommend the first one, but about continuing the series, just spoil yourself on who she ends up with. It's pretty angsty. I didn't really like it. But it is so fast and so summery that I didn't mind in the end that I was reading angst. I gave both of these books 3 stars, and now I am done with this bind up. Sorry for my lack of videos lately. Work is real. I'm gonna predict that for the next few months, don't expect a lot from my channel just because work, transitioning to college, transitioning to stress. I don't know what's gonna happen. Thank you all so much for watching. If you read any of these books, let me know. See you all next time. Goodbye.